Good evening. I'd like to call tonight's Lower McCungy Township Board of Commissioners meeting to order. If we could all please stand for a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this evening for the roll call, all who are supposed to be in attendance are. There are no agenda modifications tonight, no announcements and presentations. Moving into item 6, hearings and approvals, conditional use hearing for Vipin Properties LLC for the Hamilton Square project. I hereby temporarily adjourn this meeting of the Lower McCungy Township Board of Commissioners for the purpose of conducting a conditional use hearing on the application of Vipin Properties LLC, who is seeking conditional use approval pursuant to Chapter 27, Section 27-10B03 of the Township Zoning Code to permit a restaurant use and a coordinated commercial development, the Hamilton Square project at the properties located at 5329, 5347, 5357, 5365, and 5373 Hamilton Boulevard, Allentown, Pennsylvania. The properties are located in the West Coastville Commercial Zoning District and is commonly known as Hamilton Square. I would like to note the presence of a court stenographer who shall commence recording a transcript of this hearing. I am now turning over the conduct of the hearing to our solicitor, David Bruman.
Thank you, President Higgins. For everyone in the audience, my name is David Broman. I am the solicitor to Lower McCungy Township. The members of the Board of Commissioners who are present tonight is our President, Mr. Higgins, Vice President Richard Ward, and members Maury Robert, Ron Beitler, and Brian Shoemaker. Also present is our Township Manager, Spital, our Assistant Township Manager and Secretary, Renee Flexer, and our Township Engineer, Brian McAdam. As noted by President Higgins, this is a conditional use hearing for the property located at 5329, 5347, 5357, 5365, and 5373 Hamilton Boulevard, Allentown. Vipin, as was indicated by our president, is proposing restaurant in 2 separate buildings and is here for conditional use also for the coordinated commercial development in the West Coastville Commercial Zoning District. If the applicant meets the objective criteria of the zoning ordinance, the applicant is legally entitled to a conditional use. The Board of Commissioners have the right to vote on and render a decision on the conditional use tonight, or it may table it tonight and issue a decision at the next meeting. The board is also entitled to impose reasonable conditions if they're inclined to grant the conditional use. Is any member of the audience in attendance at tonight's hearing for this application? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to introduce the township exhibits. Township exhibit number 1 is the conditional use application dated February 12, 2024 and amended on October 9, 2024. Township exhibit 2 is the certification of property posting by Chris Russo, zoning and code specialist, and Vince Tranguch, deputy director of community development, dated November 8 and November 18, 2024. Township 3 is proof of publication as it appeared in the Lehigh Valley Press on November 6, November 7, November 13, and November 14, 2024. Township 4 is the certification of mailing notification by Maureen Lang, Community Development Administrative Assistant, and Vince Tranguch, Deputy Director of Community Development, dated November 6, 2024. Exhibit 5 is the conditional use review letter of CKS Engineers, dated September 6, 2024. Exhibit 6 is the conditional use review letter of Heinrich and Klein Associates, Inc., dated March 1, 2024. Township Exhibit 7 is the conditional use review memorandum of Vince Tranguch, who at the time was the building code officer and zoning officer, and that's dated September 6, 2024. And finally, Township 8 is the Planning Commission recommendation of approval of the conditional use application dated October 11, 2024. Mr. Preparato, I turn it over to you to make your presentation. Thank you.
You can hold the microphone real close. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the Commission. My name is Joe Piparato, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant. My intention tonight is to call Mr. Bud Newton as the sole witness in this matter. What I'd like to do, with your permission, is ask Bud some qualifying questions and introductory questions, and then allow him to kind of narrate what the development is about and walk you through the site plan. And then at the end, there are some specific conditions in the ordinance that I would ask him some questions regarding, as well as the general conditions. So with your approval, we start with that.
Please proceed.
I do.
Bud, would you state your full name for the record, please?
Yes, Harold H. Newton Jr.
And what is the nature of your business?
I'm a professional engineer and professional land surveyor in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
And how long have you been a licensed professional engineer in Pennsylvania?
Been a licensed professional engineer since 1970 and a professional land surveyor since 1974.
And have you appeared as a professional witness in the field of civil engineering before this body before?
Numerous times.
All right. And have you been accepted as an expert in the field of civil engineering?
Yes.
But have you been retained by a company known as Vipin Properties LLC for the project that is subject of the hearing this evening?
Yes, we have.
And I know it's been read into the record a number of times, but this project proposes to consolidate 5 individual and separate properties in the township. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Are they all adjoining properties?
Yes, they are.
And the project is known as Hamilton Square,
Yes, it is.
and it is located in the West Coastville Commercial Zoning District in the
It is.
township. We're here tonight seeking 2 conditional use approvals, and that is one for a restaurant excluding drive-through. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so that all references this evening to restaurant will assume that it is one without a drive-through. Is that
That's
fair to
correct.
say? And the second is for a coordinated commercial development.
That's correct.
The procedures for review of a conditional use require the Township Planning Commission to review the matter and make a written recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. And have we received that written recommendation from the Planning Commission?
Yes, we have.
I note in the October 11th, 2024 Planning Commission recommendation that are 9 conditions that are listed therein. Is it your professional opinion that the applicant in this matter can comply with those conditions?
Yes, they can.
The first condition in that letter incorporates the 3 letters that Attorney Bruman read into the record, one from Township Zoning Officer, one from Heinrich and Klein Associates, and another from CKS Engineers. Is it your professional opinion that the applicant can comply with the review letters that have been submitted as exhibits this evening?
As the plans will be modified, yes, they will.
Prior to appearing before the Planning Commission, did the applicant appear before the Zoning Hearing Board of the Township?
Yes, we did.
And would you advise the board members what variance was granted by the Zoning Hearing Board?
The variance was in regard to the area acreage that was required for a coordinated commercial development. The ordinance requires 2 acres. We had 1.68 acres. We could not acquire any additional acreage because the property was surrounded by Hamilton. On all sides.
And that 1.68 acres is the total amount of incorporating all 5 lots. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes, it is.
All right, now this evening, we will be looking at the specific criteria for the restaurant use in section 272406.1.GG. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the specific criteria for the coordinated commercial development are set forth in section 27-2415. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. But at this time, if you don't mind, I'd like for you, we are going to mark collectively, with the permission of the board, applicant's Exhibit A. It is a 20-page exhibit, and we want to make sure when we go through each page that we identify the page that we are referring to as you walk the board members through the
Yes,
presentation.
okay. Yes, it's all part of this PowerPoint in the handout that we provided to you. Page one was just introduction. Page two is the location of the site. As you can see on the screen, we're talking about 5329 through 5373 Hamilton Boulevard, and it consisted previously of 5 properties along Hamilton Boulevard, which had 7 driveways. The property is surrounded on the 3 sides by Hamilton crossings. On the west side, there is a sliver of land between this property and North Crocs Road. The only access to this property is via Hamilton Boulevard. There's no access available to North Crocs Road because of that sliver of property.
And
Uh,
Bud, just wonder if, and so that the record is clear, you are looking at a page that's entitled Site Location.
Site
In Exhibit
location,
A.
yes, it is the second page in this, in Exhibit A.
And again, I believe you talked about the 5 properties, and can you identify for the board members the 7 driveways that exist in these 5 properties? Are they visible on the site location plan?
Yes, they are.
And the plan is to eliminate all of those 7 driveways?
Yes. Okay, next sheet shows what, page 3 in the package shows what had been on this site previously. It's entitled Previous Site Street View. The first upper part of the project is what was used to be the Fretz office building. Second, in the middle was a building that was, half of the building was a holistic care center. And on the left-hand side of that building was a residence. And then there were 2 other residences on that property. And there was a conflict between the driveways of these buildings and the traffic that queued from the intersection of Hamilton Boulevard and North Crocs Road. And you could notice that there was a lack of pedestrian facilities, no sidewalk in this area. And it was a very disjointed development that was previously along this section of the roadway.
And I know you'll address this as we get further into the presentation, but you have been able to eliminate that conflict with driveways and queued vehicles with the current proposal,
Yes, we'll
As-
get into that with the
as
next.
well as providing
couple
pedestrian
slides. Yes.
facilities?
The next slide goes into the highway. As when we were developing this project back in the period of time between 2019 and 2020, we received a driveway permit for a previous development that we proposed that was consolidating 3 of the lots and getting rid of 5 of the permits. I'll go into this a little bit further in the next slide, which talks about, on this slide shows at the time we were doing this, we had met with the township, PennDOT, and 3 permittees that were looking at getting the permit all at the same time. We were looking at the dermatologist's office, Dr. Twersik's, the Taco Bell project, and the 3 lots that were being developed. And we met with PennDOT, the township, and we also, the township got involved with the Meadowick project. We were trying to clean up this whole section of Hamilton Boulevard between North Crocs Road and the right-in, right-out driveway for Hamilton crossings. We had numerous meetings with PennDOT and the local, and the township, and tried to figure out what was going on. A traffic impact assessment was done for all of the 3 projects together at that time. And what was come up with at that time, we had that interconnection between Meadowick and the new driveway that was put in for the Taco Bell restaurant to let those people come out at the traffic light. And PennDOT required that the only access to this property be put in opposite of what Meadowick was put in. PennDOT at the time wanted us to try to get rid of the other 2 driveways to the other 2 properties that weren't included with that project, but we couldn't at the time because it wasn't included with the project. The benefit that we have now with this project is now that the 2 lots are included, we're able to accommodate, we're able to include those 2 properties. And we had a meeting that CKS and the township traffic consultant was involved with PennDOT back on September 24th. they said that the configuration of this driveway was still good, the permit was still valid, but they wanted us to supplement it to enclose those two driveways. And they said that because the ADT for this use that we have now with the with the two buildings being 10,000 square foot of use was less than what the fast food restaurant and the retail building previously on the site was, that the permit is still valid, but we had to supplement it to show the current proposed use and show that we're closing the two driveways.
So, but if I could we could summarize a little bit. So first of all, I want to make sure that we're identifying for the record that we're talking about page 5.
Talking about page
Of the
5.
exhibits in the top right-hand corner, it is entitled HOP Meeting with PennDOT District 5. And so I think what you've explained to the board members is that the HOP was obtained previously for a different development scheme. And you have had meetings now with PennDOT, which the township has participated in which PennDOT has indicated that that permit is still acceptable, that you must supplement it because we now have 2 additional properties with 2 additional driveways. Is that correct?
And we're closing. And one of the questions that came up early, and Brian and CKS raised this in the planning meeting, was that permit still valid? You know, and it was valid because we have less use coming out of it. They wanted to make sure. And, you know, and that's why we had the meeting with PennDOT on September 24th.
And so at the end of the day, we've been able to include and eliminate additional driveways, and yet the use is still less than what the permit was issued.
Yes.
Is that your testimony?
Yes, and it was also at the time, both PennDOT and the Township Traffic Consultant agreed with the traffic generation that we had. They agreed that the traffic impact analysis that we previously had done is still valid, and that they were very happy that we were able to get rid of the additional 2 driveways in this section, and that we're able to clean up this whole block of Hamilton Boulevard. That's would be a lot better than what had been in the past.
Thank you. The next page would be page 6 of the exhibit.
Page
A.
6 now shows what the new development is going to look like. You know, with the single driveway to this property and with the 2 buildings. You know, it consists of 2 buildings, total of 10,000 square feet. With the coordinated commercial development, we put the parking, you know, to the rear and the side of the buildings. And, you know, as a result, we have to get approval for the conditional use and for the coordinated commercial development and for the restaurant. We had several discussions with the township over the last year and a half that this was being proposed. Have moved the 1 building up closer to the roadway. We moved the patios closer to the roadway, you know, all in conjunction with discussions that we had with the township, how we laid out the site.
And so that the board members understand, this iteration that we're looking at on page 6 is really the result of many, many meetings, is it not, in discussions with township representatives?
Yes, we had several iterations of this plan as a result of how do we make this fit in best with the Wescosville commercial zone, the new zoning that was proposed for Wescosville.
Thank you. We're now going to refer to page 7 of the
Page
exhibit.
7 gets into the talking about the buildings now with the architectural and the enhancements with the buried roof lines that we have, that we moved the buildings closer to the roadway. We ended up putting screening walls in to block the parking, you know, from the roadway. We have enhanced landscaping. One of the things we also had done here, we're carrying the themes. I skipped the page. I'm skipping the page of my ad.
I was going to stop you because I was a little confused. So let's do this again. So we're looking at. let me-
Sheet 7.
Yep, no, we're looking at sheet 6, which on the left-hand side says proposed Hamilton Square consists of 2 buildings. And now we're going to go to sheet 7,
Yep.
which says pedestrian connections at the top left-hand corner. Is that correct?
Yes. You know, this project now, we are looking for provide connections to the Hamilton Crossing Shopping Center, also to the intersection of North Crocs Road with, you know, at the intersection, you can see there where we have the Handman intersection connections, we have the improved intersection with the crosswalks, and with the Lower Macungie Township Trail System, we have connections to the east, you know, with the crosswalk and the right in, right out driveway. So we'll have better pedestrian connection in the area. With the highway occupancy permit, as we said, we closed the 7 driveways. We have 1 driveway now that is aligned with the Meadowwick driveway.
And so the pedestrian crossings that you're referring to, those were what you're referring to when we were talking about the lack of pedestrian crossings with the previous
Previously.
five parcels. Is that
Now,
correct?
now this property will be interconnected, both internally, from building to building, and also externally to, the surrounding area. And that we had the permit before for the 1,130 vehicles now per day. Now we're gonna have 652 trips per day based on ID information for these 10,000 square foot buildings. And as we talked before, we did have a meeting with PennDOT and the township, and everybody agreed with the traffic numbers that we have generated over this project.
We turn to page 8, which on the left-hand side is entitled Buildings.
Yes, which I tried to move ahead to, try to, before, we are using buildings that have architectural enhancements similar to what you're looking for in the Wescosville zoning district. We moved the buildings closer to the roadway, as we talked about. We're adding screening walls, and we're gonna have enhanced landscaping. And one of the things that, well, I'm not mentioning it here, but we are trying to carry the theme of what we did a lot for Hamilton Crossings, and we're doing at the other quarters of the intersection across the frontage here. We're going to use the pedestrian scale lighting. You know, we're gonna have the look here be very similar to what we did on the other 3 quarters of the intersection. You know, what you have over on Hamilton Crossings, we have in front of Outback, and what we have in front of Taco Bell, what we did on those other projects. So what you're gonna see is gonna be very similar to those other projects.
Page 9, Bud, is
Page 9
entitled
gives you
Building Renderings.
renderings of what the building's going to look like. We're gonna, it's gonna be similar to some of the other recent developments that we've done in the township. You're not gonna see the typical strip-type buildings.
You had
Yeah.
mentioned to the board members the outdoor patio area that was moved closer to the roadway, and that's depicted in the photograph to the left-hand
Yeah.
side. Is that
You
correct?
you see the outdoor patio area, you can see the screening walls, you can see some of some of the landscaping, we got a lot more landscaping though than what's showing up here. We'll show you more of that as we get into some of these other slides. Show you some of the enhanced lighting that we're proposing on this site. Next.
Page 10 of the exhibit is entitled Building Elevations.
Yes, this is to show that the buildings will have, the stone, will have the sloped roofs, will have the siding, will have the gooseneck type lights, canopies, some of the other features that you're looking for in your Wescosville zone, the enhanced elevations for the buildings that you're looking for in that zone.
Next page will be identified as number 11, entitled Site Amenities.
Yes, this is part of, the enhancements that you're looking for in the area, part of the amenities plan that we have to submit with the project, showing, in the lower left-hand corner that we'll have the patio furniture. We're proposing trellises at the entrance. We're talking about having a stamped asphalt for the crosswalks. We're gonna be using the same herringbone with the maroon colored walkways that we have at the intersections at, the intersection of North Rocks Road with Hamilton Boulevard. We're gonna have the wrought iron look benches. We'll have LED lighting. We're gonna have some of the pedestrian scale lighting out along Hamilton Boulevard and also internally. So,
And many of these are either required or suggested in the zoning district in which the property is located, correct? And that's
yes,
the
it's
reason
all
why.
part of the design standards too that the township has. But it's also to make it look similar to what we have on the other quarters of the intersection, and also carrying the theme that we had started with Hamilton Crossings.
Page 12 is entitled Site Landscaping, if you want to explain to the board members what the pictures identify.
The lower left-hand corner is what you have out there at Taco Bell. We're trying to carry the same type of screening wall and landscaping you have there. And then the upper right-hand corner is what we're proposing here on this site. And then, the lower right-hand corner is another view that shows the double face type wall that we have. So you can see that what we're trying to do here is going to be very similar to what we've done on some of the other corners of the intersection.
And these are all features in which will be included in the proposed development.
Yes.
Page 13 of Exhibit A is entitled Fire Truck Route, if you would
Yeah.
review that with the board
Yeah,
members.
one of the biggest problems we had on this site was because of the narrowness of the lot itself, was how were we going to get the fire truck and stuff around? So we spent a lot of time trying to make sure that we could get the fire truck in and out and around on the site. So, this was critical for the design of the project to make sure that we could still, there was a lot of discussion with how they would have liked, the township would have liked it, that staff would have liked to have the buildings both up close to the roadway, but we couldn't do that and still get the fire truck around the site. So what we did do is we did make the one building narrower than what we wanted, and made the other building wider, so that we could still get the fire truck around, but it was limited on what we could do with, as far as getting the buildings close to the roadway. We did the best job we could, but still be able to get the fire truck around.
Has the township fire official reviewed this plan?
We believe they have.
In any event, as we move the plan through the land development process, that review will
Yes.
occur, and we will be subject to any comments of the
That they
fire.
have,
official.
yes.
Is that correct? I think page 14 is talking about site-generated traffic. I know you touched upon this a little bit. If you want to just briefly review it
Yes,
with the
yeah.
board members.
Again, as we talked before, that we had the permit already for 1,130 vehicles, and yet now have 652 based on IT information. Of that, 78 trips are the PM peak. Of that, ITE says we have 30 pass-by trips. Those are trips that are already in the flow of traffic, so they're not new trips that are generated. So we have 48 new trips. We get credit from traffic impact fee for the trips that already came from the property, from the 5 uses that were on the property before, which were 14 trips. So from a traffic impact fee standpoint, we'd be paying fees for the 34 trips.
Now, you've given a nice overview of the project, the amenities that are being proposed, et cetera. I now want to address the specific criteria in the ordinance for each of the respective conditioned uses. Now, for the restaurant use, I believe we indicated that those provisions are set forth in section 27240.6.1 GG, and there are 4 specific criteria that I'd like to review with you as it pertains to the restaurant use. Access points shall be limited to 2 on each road abutting the lot. How does this plan address that issue?
As we demonstrated before, we have one access point that was approved by PennDOT.
So it essentially could have 2 access points, but we provided one that's appropriate for this development.
Yes,
On-lot traffic circulation channels and parking areas shall be clearly marked.
we showed how we had the parking lot laid out. We have it laid out so it could handle the fire truck and that traffic could circulate through the site.
Provisions for proper and convenient disposal of refuse shall be demonstrated. Are there areas on site that will provide for that disposal?
We have a closed area. I didn't point that out through the process of showing the plan, but we do have a dumpster on the extreme north east corner of the property. We chose that area so it was far enough away from where we would have any restaurants, so that it wouldn't be in the area where the people would interfere with where they're sitting to have the outdoor dining, but that would be close enough that the people be convenient for disposal of any refuse.
The last
Joe,
requirement.
before you go on, would you just point out on one of your previous slides exactly where that enclosure is
Very
going to
good.
be?
Point out, and identify the page number, if you will. I have them marked, but if you will show where that is going to be located at. Six.
That's, Renee, that's
Yeah.
top right.
Yeah, I think slide 6 probably is the best place to look. It's on the, where the hand is located. You see, we try to, as I said, we try to keep as far away from the outdoor dining areas as we possibly could, but still be convenient enough that, the people from the restaurants and other places can dispose of the waste.
The last requirement for the restaurant use is the structure shall be located so as to provide for on-street storefront presence and encourage outdoor seating and dining for patrons in designated spaces. It does allow outdoor dining to be extended through the front yard setback to the ultimate right-of-way, which I believe you attempted to do. So would you explain to the board and members how this plan satisfies that condition?
Yeah, as you can see, as we showed on the plan, that we do have the outdoor patio areas that, were defined in each of those. And then we have also on the other building, we have small area. So if we do have restaurants, they're going to be on the end caps of those the two buildings.
And Bud, the location of the restaurant, particularly the one as we're looking at the plan to the left-hand side, that was based on your discussions with township representatives when they were talking about how they would want to see the site oriented with the buildings. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'd now like to review with you, if I may, the specific requirements for a coordinated commercial development. The first requirement is that 2 or more commercial or industrial structures are permitted in the particular zoning district may combine as a coordinated development. Do we have at least 2 commercial structures planned for this particular property?
Yes, we do.
The next requirement is a minimum lot size of 2 acres, and I think you explained to the board members that the applicant received a variance from the zoning hearing board for 1.68 acres to this site.
Yes, we did.
Is that correct? There are architectural and landscape standards. There are sign packages, things of that sort. In your opinion, if we look at items A through G pertaining to architectural items, does the plan, in your professional opinion, comply with the provisions of those letters?
Yes, I believe we comply and we actually exceed the requirements.
For instance, G indicates that all other amenities proposed within the development, such as outdoor seating areas, pavilions, gazebos, benches, trash receptacles, and the like. I believe you have identified previously where those amenities are located on the plan.
Yes, we provided placeholders for those items on the plans, and we have provisions on plans that state that the final decision will be made at building permit stage, and they'll be reviewed by the zoning officer and staff at that point in time to make sure that the township is satisfied with what's being provided.
Is there screening of the parking areas?
Yes, there is.
And will lighting meet the requirements of section 271805?
Yes, it will.
New development or uses shall respect the existing businesses, structures, and character of the area in and around the development. Do you believe that this proposal is in keeping with the character of the surrounding area?
Yes, we're surrounded, as we mentioned before, we're surrounded by the Hamilton Crossing Shopping Center, and what we're doing is in character with what we did in the Hamilton Crossing Shopping Center.
The next criteria are some percentage criteria, and basically indicates that not less than 50% of the ultimate amount of space in the coordinated commercial development in gross floor area shall be constructed upon issuance of building permits. Do you intend to construct more than 50% upon the issuance of the building permit?
It's our understanding that this development's going to be constructed entirely at one time.
So 100% of the
100%
construction will
is our
occur
understanding.
continuously. And the developer understands that no certificates of occupancy will be issued for any use or structure within the development until at least 75% of the site is either construction or under substantial completion.
It's our understanding he understands that.
The next requirement is that all structures and amenities shall be designed in accordance with the approved land development plan and the approved project design companion to the review and written satisfaction of the township prior to issuance of building permits. We've indicated that from an architectural standpoint, we're pretty far along in the design of this project, correct?
Yes,
However, we still have full land development process to complete, and whatever conditions are imposed during that process will be incorporated into this project. Is that your understanding?
my understanding, we have some notes accordingly on the land development plans.
Structures may either be joined by common walls or may be separated. In this case, I believe you've got a little bit of both. Would you explain to the board members in that regard?
Yes, we have, we have internal walkways. We have, provided for both pedestrian access between the buildings and, both for vehicles and for pedestrian access between them.
And you would agree with me that this is going to be considered a single parcel. This is going to be consolidated, into one parcel. And so it will meet the requirement that it be considered as a single parcel.
Yes,
And will there be shared parking on the property with the various users and tenants of the structures?
Yes,
All layout and design components of the proposed development shall provide for generous pedestrian interconnectivity between structures and site users. I believe you've explained to the board members how you've accommodated that in this project. I mean, is there anything else you want to add?
no, we've provided those crosswalks internally and externally for the property.
And so before we get to the general criteria, is it your professional opinion, Mr. Newton, that the project as proposed before the Board of Commissioners this evening is in compliance with the specific criteria required for a restaurant and for a coordinated commercial development?
Yes, we do.
There are some general criteria in the ordinance that are more community-wide criteria. I'd like to review. There's only 6 of them. That the project be in accordance with the land use objectives of the Southwest Lehigh County Comprehensive Plan and consistent with the spirit, purposes, and intent of this chapter. Do you believe this plan is in furtherance of the land use objectives of the county comprehensive plan?
We do, and also I believe it was so stated in the review letter by the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission.
The second is that in the best interest of the township, the convenience of the community, and the public welfare, I believe you've already testified that you are eliminating 5 separate parcels and 7 driveways. Do you believe that this proposal is in the best interest of the township and the convenience of the community?
Yes,
Do you believe that the proposal is suitable for the property in question and designed, constructed, operated, and will be maintained so as to be in harmony with and appropriate in scale, appearance, and intensity of use with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity or neighborhood?
it was so designed.
And is it your professional opinion as a civil engineer that other than the one variance that was required by the applicant, that the project's in conformance with all applicable requirements of the ordinance?
Yes,
Do you believe it's suitable in terms of permitting the logical, safe, efficient, and economical extension of public services and facilities such as public water, sewers, police, and fire protection?
it was designed to comply with what was designed for that area. You know, the extension of the water, that line that was put in with the Hamilton Crossings project, it was designed to use the sewage services that were provided in the area. So
So the public utilities
public
are there.
utilities are there that was intended for servicing this property.
And is it suitable in terms of effects on street traffic and safety with adequate sidewalks and vehicular access arrangements to protect major streets from undue congestion and hazard?
I think we testified that we were able to clean up a lot of the previous traffic problems that existed in the area with being able to consolidate this whole block and improve the traffic conditions on this section of Hamilton Boulevard.
You have anything else you want to add for the board commissioners?
I don't
believe
think
that's
so.
it, Mr. President. Thank you.
Answer any questions that you may have.
Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Robert?
You had indicated that I believe that there was a connection of sidewalk from your property to the Hamilton crossing at Cox Road.
We
I
were
did
able-
not see that in the plan.
We're able to connect to the sidewalk that Hamilton Crossing put in along North Crocs Road. And then we'll have to go back in through there. We couldn't get a direct connection to the shopping center. We were hoping to be able to connect
Okay,
directly.
but you can connect to the path that comes over, that crosses Hamilton and then proceeds down the side of
Yeah, we're able to get over to.
Can we put sheet 6 up just so that we want to be able to answer your
Gotta
question?
use the microphone first.
Yes, I want to be able to answer your question accurately. I want to make sure that we
Yeah,
do that.
yeah, we couldn't get a direct connection to Hamilton Crossings, but we're able
Thank
to
you.
go up alongside the roadway there, along North Crocs, and go in in the driveway, Maury, you know.
So plan left, Bud, bottom left, there appears to be a walkway that I believe everybody is referring to. Is that the walkway that this development will connect to?
Yes,
But directly to the rear of the property, where there's a buffer area between Hamilton Crossings and this project, we were not able to obtain the permission to connect to that sidewalk. Is
Yes.
that correct?
yeah, early on, there was some.
Okay, so although it's not shown on the plan, there will be a continuation of the sidewalk through the Hamilton Crossing land to that path along.
Yes,
Oh.
yes, that connects over.
Okay,
That's because that's in township right away.
yeah, okay.
Is there any plan of the 20 that shows that? In other words, its extension through to Hamilton?
Is there,
It is,
but does it,
it does show up on the land development plans, David. I don't know if any
I
of
mean, I
these
think if you
plans
go
show
back
up.
to the part where it's just just plan, you might be able to see it better than there, like right up on, not that one. Yeah, it's not,
Yeah, it's not shown on the
it would
plan.
be here.
Yeah, we
It
do have,
needs a-
we do have it, Mario. It's on, in the land development plans that are in for review right now, it does show that connection.
Okay,
You know, we do make that connection.
but would you be able to at least identify for the board members where about on the property that connection is being made?
It'd be made from where the terminus is on this sheet to where the white area for the concrete, for the ADA ramp is. We have a connection made there.
okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry it didn't show up on this. When we were making the slide, we just pulled the area of this property, but there is a connection made.
Okay, next question. It seems like the parking is pretty tight. That there's 65 parking spaces and 65 are allowed. And that's without knowing what the actual uses are. It seems to me that there ought to be some kind of a condition included in that would require that the uses that are actually put in would not exceed the 65 parking spaces that are provided.
There is provisions in the land development plans that are pending that's based on the number of parking spaces that say that we have, there's a placeholder for parking that says based on so much retail and so many seats of restaurant use.
So
But it's something that's going to have to be reviewed by the zoning officer
Yes.
at the time that the
Uh,
building.
so every
permit
time a
stage.
use permit is filed for a particular tenant, your zoning officer will have an opportunity to review that use that is being proposed. And we are going to then have to calculate parking spaces based upon each of the individual uses. I
Okay,
believe,
but,
that are being
but the
presented.
thing is, there's not any space to add any parking space.
No.
Correct. And so
No,
therefore
no.
we'll have to,
And
So
so.
the uses are going to be dependent on how
uh,
many seats
Is
and how many
everybody else
spaces.
in agreement
Mhm.
that there should be a condition that the uses will be adapted to not exceeds the requirement of 65 parking spaces?
I think that's,
it's in your.
isn't that a
it's in your
given by the
ordinance.
ordinance?
Huh?
Isn't that a given by the ordinance, the way the ordinance is written, that we're only allowed to have the uses based on that, and that's the way we put the
So-
parking requirement is written.
Well, so therefore, since it's in the ordinance, you wouldn't have any problem with it being a condition, right?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it is consistent with the ordinance requirements, we have no
Well,
problems with that at
or
all.
if
Yes.
it is or isn't, if
Yeah.
it's not, it makes sense that you shouldn't be able to exceed the number of parking spaces that you're providing.
We agree with you.
Okay?
I got it.
My next concern is the stormwater runoff. And it seems like, is there some way to directly pipe it into the stormwater?
They wouldn't let us.
And so how are we safely going to deal with that?
We have to sheet flow the water out. We're have a huge underground detention basin here, retention basin here. And we're gonna be sheet flowing it across those Gabion baskets to the inlet, controlling the rate that we're doing to less than what the rate is right now. And it's going to an inlet that's depressed on that side. You know, unfortunately, Hamilton Crossing won't allow for the direct connection to their system. But we're allowed to discharge to the system as a surface discharge.
Yeah, I know,
as a big-
but the issue is that
How do you
they've
get
got a
there?
big pipe going into the small that's gonna spread the water out and then try to get into a small
Right.
inlet. And that could present problems as far as it's starting to get cold out and it's raining and stormwater runoff can freeze and all that stuff.
But
Brian, do you have any suggestions of anything that we could or should include as a condition to facilitate having that dealt with correctly?
I am not entirely thrilled with what's proposed. Now, granted, this is conditional use, the design is part of the land development, but since the land development plan was submitted concurrently with this application, we have reviewed the stormwater management. And I agree with Bud in that, yes, there is a large underground storage system. There is gabion matting that will take the flow from the underground basin and then discharge it through the gabion mats. But then it goes onto the Hamilton Square buffer area. And there's a give or take, I'll say 15 feet or so before it gets to the driveway where the water would have to go over the curb and into the inlet. We had raised that same question in early meetings, and as was represented, Hamilton Crossings is not interested in cooperating and giving them the ability to discharge the runoff directly to that inlet with a pipe. I can't speak to either party as to why they wouldn't be able to make that work, but in my opinion, that would be the best way to handle it, because I had some of the same concerns that you do. Even if you're reducing the rate of runoff, the water's still going there. The only, I wouldn't even call it a positive, but the way that the property lays, it kind of, there is a natural draw to that point. So it's all getting there anyway. It is being reduced, but I certainly would prefer that it be connected by a pipe. But we need they need permission from property owner in order to do that. They would need a temporary construction easement, they would need a permanent easement. But as has been represented, apparently Hamilton Crossings will not cooperate. So they're left with what's proposed. I'm not sure what else they can do, to be honest.
And I'm caught in the middle because I was the engineer for both projects. And I've recommended to Carlo and Hamilton Crossings that they'd be better off with a direct connection on this project and several other projects, but they don't want to, they say they can't get, the other partners they have, Costco and Target and everybody else to cooperate.
Okay.
So yeah.
And one other question, Brian, in your review letter, you mentioned thing about or recreational space.
Yeah,
And-
that was erroneous. That applies to residential.
Yeah, it's only residential and I didn't see anything that indicated.
Now, I got a little overzealous with my cut and paste from previous,
Okay.
trying to help the township out.
Yeah. That's all my.
Any other commissioner questions?
Just to follow up on what Mari said, just from when I reviewed it, it seems like the storm water is going to go into an underground storage and drainage facility, but concern is, I read somewhere, it's still going to be heading north underground. So
Yeah, there's a discharge point, Ron, a pipe that goes into that goes in, it's actually 100 of those storm scepter cells that it's going to be stored in and controlled, and there's a 3-inch orifice that's coming out of, that's allowing the water to discharge eventually. We're going to hold back the 2-year and spray that over the property, but from a detention standpoint, it's all going out through a 3-inch orifice and going over across this gabion mat that's gonna spread it back out. But right now it is going through, as Brian was saying, there is right now on the property a channel flow that it goes to that inlet. That is on the Hamilton Crossings property, and that's where it's gonna continue to go. Would have been my preference to pipe directly into that drainage system, but they won't let us do it.
All right, that's the only question I had, and I just mentioned it for Mari that he understood
Mhm.
what it, and I believe, Brian, that'll be all addressed at land development. The
Yeah.
capacity for that.
It'll be addressed to the extent that we can. Yeah.
Right.
Any other commissioner questions? All right, I just have three real quick, not so much questions, but what I'd like to see in terms of conditions as we deliberate this. The first one is, I'm not 100% convinced on the turn radius for the fire department. I'm also not convinced that they've said yes to that so far. So for me, that's a condition of any conditional use of this, is that that works. What I'm seeing here takes out several cars if the truck has to go through there. And I think that's a defect in this plan. I'm confident that you'll figure out a way to do it, but that would be the first condition. The second one is going to be, since we're looking at reverse frontage, basically, and we're trying to keep up with design standards, the backs of the buildings need to look like the front of the buildings. They can't just be a sign with a lot of pipes around and blank doors, and it can't look like the back of the building with a sign on it. It needs to look like the building. And it can't be just signage in the windows. It needs to be a full sign package. And the last one, which I think is probably even more important, because I think that the refuse area is awfully small for what looks like could be at some point 7 different businesses. One being a restaurant and what other retail or whatever goes in there. My fear is that the back of the larger building turns into a load of dumpsters at some point. And that will be easily viewable from North Crocs Boulevard. So I would be looking for some sort of buffering that is substantially higher than normal, so that it's not turning onto Crocs and looking at the back of the building where the workers are congregating, and all of a sudden, a picnic table shows up out there, and it's not, I guess, pleasing to the eye. So whatever buffering would have to happen there to make sure that it doesn't look like the back of a building. The example I use in Hamilton Crossings is when you pull into the left side going towards Whole Foods, that whole line of buildings with the mattress and the AT&T, there's signs in the back of that building because there has to be a back, but it looks like the back of a building as you pull in the driveway. I don't want this to turn into that, because then it just becomes a lot of looking at the backs of buildings and not what we've intended. Understanding that there are hurdles to get past.
You could see that along North Crocs Road, though, there is a substantial tree roll there right
Yes,
now.
there is. I just want to make sure that whatever's there is high enough that, we can see the top and what it looks like the front of a building, but it's not, we're looking straight at the back wall of the building where everybody's going to be hanging out,
Yeah,
who's working there.
And if you're referring to stuff along Hamilton Boulevard, which is actually the back of these
Right.
one building, it's what you're gonna get what's on
Yeah,
these
no,
plans. So
I know. I just want to make sure that we codify it and it's there so that we know that it's done. But we've done a lot of things together, so I understand. Those are the three that I have. Mr. Solicitor.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I'm going to go backwards. First, dealing with Mr. President's question. Would that be the western property line where the
Yes.
additional buffering would
Yes.
go? And I assume the applicant doesn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, we testified at the planning commission that where there were gaps in the buffering from the Hamilton Crossings, that we would infill that area.
Thank you. Also, on the emergency vehicle, can the apparatus reach the site from both the eastbound and the westbound lane?
I'm sorry.
Can it turn into the site whether it's going eastbound or westbound on
Yeah,
Hamilton?
yeah.
I'm
They
sorry.
do have, with coming in the driveway, they do have to go, with what PennDOT would approve, they do have to go in both lanes. They have to, truck, fire engine's gonna have to go through both lanes. They're gonna have, but that's why we haven't paid it there.
Along those lines, but just to clarify for the board and for Solicitor Bruman, the truck turning template that you provided for the fire truck appears to have the fire trucks only coming in from the west.
Yeah.
There's nothing showing anything
Well,
coming
well,
in from the east. So
we'll
that
provide-
would need to be revised. And I would suggest, in the context of concerns regarding larger vehicles accessing the site and being able to adequately navigate, the land development plan set had provided truck turning radii and templates for other vehicles. We had concerns with the way some of those were presented. In hearing what I am from the concerns from the board, I think it would be helpful to have those submitted as part of any revised plan.
Agreed.
To have it not just be fire trucks, have those other vehicles as well. And then obviously the condition would be that any adjustments within the site layout that were necessary would have to be made.
That's fine.
Going back to another question, or actually suggested condition, and that is with respect to the, I'll call them false fronts. Is that shown on any of your architectural renderings?
Yeah, the architectural renderings does show, what the buildings would look like along Hamilton Boulevard, even though those aren't, those aren't the fronts of the buildings.
Just tell me what slide that is. We don't have to go back over it. I just want to reference it.
Nine,
Yeah,
page 9.
the 9.
So those fronts, Mr. President, are
Yeah, they represent what the,
acceptable.
on the
Acceptable.
right-hand
Correct.
side is what looked like Hamilton Boulevard.
Next time, could you number the pages, Bud?
Yeah, we did have them numbered, then we revised a couple of slides, and the numbering didn't show up. I mentioned that to Nicolette this afternoon. That the numbers did ended up getting back on.
I don't know if this is for Joe or Bud, but I think one thing that's been we've been wrestling with is the fact we don't know the use. You've come here for a conditional use with no use. So is this going to be restaurants or not?
There is, right now, I'm told from the marketing representative that there have been significant interest from personal services, restaurants, and even offices. And so, we aren't very far in the land development process yet. And so I think they're hesitant to really sign up anybody until we know, obviously, how this conditional use hearing is going to go and how we start marching through land development with some of the concerns you've raised regarding turning radius and that type of thing. But right now, it's from what I understand, they have a fair amount of interest from all different types of things, both personal services and restaurants as well. But we understand that based on Mr. Murray's comment, that we understand it can't all be restaurants, obviously, because we have parking limitations. And so that's going to be driven by, and again, and I'm not just giving you fluff here, right? The bottom line is it's going to be a balancing act. We're going to have to balance the uses and the parking requirements of those uses with the available spaces that we have. And it's really how they're going to have to manage this project.
You show two, areas outside that could be gathering or could be outdoor dining. Are they designed to be outdoor dining?
They could be either, depending on what the uses are. And it could be the size of the use too. What's going to come down to, as I mentioned before, the number of seats. The number of seats dependent, the number of parking spaces dependent on how many seats
are in the restaurant use.
and restaurant uses.
Obviously, the reason to ask these questions is one, are you going to have liquor or not? Two, what are your hours of operation?
Yes.
There is a third, I'll come to it, but what will be, the hours of operation?
I don't believe that's been determined yet.
The third one was screening. What we've done in other instances of outdoor dining is screen, screen, screen. So keep that in mind because that's what you're gonna have to do. That's all I have, Mr. President, right now.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to table decision in this matter? It's
Well,
gonna- Oh,
as a technical matter, we do have to,
Oh,
if
ask for
there's any
public
public comment.
you're right. My apologies.
No problem.
Any public comment?
But I think Bruce has some
Oh,
questions.
Bruce?
Sorry, I just do have one brief question.
No, that's good.
On the life safety circulation plan, if both of the buildings or one of the buildings requires automatic sprinkler systems, will there be fire department access to the fire department connections? And will they be designated, free and clear of obstructions, including parking and any other materials that would be in the way of firefighting operations?
We were trying to get a meeting, Bruce, with the fire marshal, try to determine that stuff. It's been hard for us to get a meeting since, Pat McNabb passed away. It used to be, we used to be able to sit down with him and figure out what we want to put on these plans, and we haven't been able to do that recently. We'd like to get back to the point that we're able to do that early in the design phase, because it made life a lot easier for everybody.
I'm sorry, I have one other question too, since you're not sure of proposed uses at this point, and you don't know if they're going to be supplied by larger vehicles, and Engineer McAdam discussed part of the traffic flow, and their request for maybe additional vehicles, but do you think any of the proposed uses are going to be supplied by, large tractor trailers that may have to
No,
circulate into the site?
they're not, they're gonna be limited size of vehicles they can get in there. They're most, there's, you're gonna have small uses in here that are gonna be supplied by, more stake body trucks and stuff like that. They're gonna be limited to the area that we have for loading and stuff is the 40-foot wide, 14 by 40-foot wide area that is allowed by the zoning ordinance. So, you're not gonna get tractor trailers in here.
Thank you.
Mr. President, this concludes the conditional use hearing, except for the obligation of the Board of Commissioners to discuss, deliberate, and decide whether or not to grant the conditional use application presently before the board.
Do I have a motion to table decision in this matter to enable the commissioners to meet with the solicitor to deliberate?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any commissioner comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Seeing and hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. At this time, the conditional use hearing is adjourned and the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners is reconvened. Thank you.
Joe, I'll keep you up to date.
Unless there's objection, I'd like to just make a small modification to the agenda and move to public comment on non-agenda topics at this time. Any objection from the board? Okay, then public comment on non-agenda topics. Gentlemen, this is your time. Please come up to the microphone. We need you to sign in with your name and address and also state your name and address for the record. Just so you understand what public comment part is, you have a 3-minute time that you can make comments on anything not on the agenda. It's not a discussion, it's comment section. So you're free to go.
Thank you, Board of Commissioners, and thank you for getting us in sooner than the rest of the agenda. I appreciate that. Today, I'm here as a resident of Lower McKenzie Township, representing a lot of the other members of the Lehigh Valley Cricket Club. And we do appreciate the opportunity to speak today during this public comment section. I've been here as a resident of Lower Macungie Township since 2020. And for a short duration of time, I was on the planning commission and got a chance to serve in the community. Couldn't keep up with the requirements as there was a lot of work travel, but my time here was very pleasurable and met some of you and spent some quality time with many of you. Myself and many other hundreds of loving fans of cricket reside here in Lower Macungie Township, Lehigh County, and the greater Lehigh Valley. And with reference to that, we're here to specifically plead our case about the usage of the Farmington Hills Park that is here in Lower Macungie Township. As a sport, cricket is becoming global. For example, in 2028, cricket will be represented in the Olympics for the very first time in Los Angeles. And for those of you that may not be aware, it was also hosted by the United States earlier this year, with games being hosted in New York City, Texas, and North Carolina. Millions of people traveled domestically and from overseas to visit these games, and it was a huge success for the sport of cricket. In addition to that, we realized that, most recently the township has had some concerns, and there was communication shared with the Lehigh Valley Cricket Club and the email address on file. We recognized that there was some miscommunication and misunderstandings on our part, and we were not able to react to it quickly enough. We did address some of the items already that were brought to our attention, but we did not close the loop, and we take full ownership of that. And we recognize that that's difficult for the township, and the Parks and Rec Committee puts them in a difficult position to make those types of decisions. Ultimately, we have put some corrective measures already in place. We are now assigning more and more people within our club to ensure that the communication is received not by a single individual, but multiple people. In addition to that, we've also shared the feedback from the committee and the township with the entire membership team, and created and plan to create another committee as part of next year's plans to ensure any concerns with respect to usage of the fields is shared widely across the members, and there's a zero tolerance policy when it comes to respecting the usage of the fields, the upkeep, and the rules and regulation. Many of us here tonight and a lot of our members within the cricket club are law-abiding citizens of Lower Macungie Township and the Lehigh County, greater Lehigh Valley. Many of us are, doctors, blue-collar workers, white-collar workers, dentists, business owners. And we have a lot of formidable economic support to the local township, and we bring a lot to the table. Ultimately, we want to make sure that our case is heard. Cricket is a sport that's, we all grew up with, and it's part of our culture, it's part of our identity, and it's part of our DNA. Just like many of us, including myself, watch football on Sundays, we like to play cricket on Saturdays and Sundays for a very limited period of time during summer.
I'm just gonna stop you there because
Yeah.
we're past the 3 minutes.
We are, okay,
Yes.
I'm 20 seconds. Is
Okay,
that okay?
that's fine.
Okay. So we are fully committed to immediately address all open concerns and continue to do so next year. Our request for today, at least, is to hear our case. We are happy to sit down in a workshop with the Lower Macungie Township and address any and all concerns, and continue to do that in 2025. And we would like to request to also continue to use the Farmington Hills ground for 2025 and beyond. And we're fully committed to work with the township on that. So that's the case. Thank you.
And like I said, it's not a discussion, but
Yep.
I want to make one thing perfectly clear. We don't want the cricket people to go away. I think it's great. I live in the neighborhood. Most of the people, many of the people in the neighborhood don't like it there. You've outgrown a neighborhood park. We want to find a suitable place for you to continue to play. I think it's great that it is here. But to take a neighborhood park and have it completely shut down for Saturday and Sunday, pretty much all day long, early in the morning till late in the day, is just not suitable anymore. So there are other places that we think can be suitable and can be used where it would be of no distraction to anybody. And we're just asking that you work with the Recreation Department and the Parks and Rec Commission to analyze what we have to offer and come up with a suitable replacement. That's it. It can't be in the neighborhood anymore because it's just gotten too big. You've gotten very successful. I've sat and watched on many occasions, and I think it's fascinating. I did watch, the World Cup of cricket this summer? Because I'm curious. So we don't want you to go. We just want to find a more suitable location for what you're doing. But I do appreciate you recognizing the communication gap and working to fix that.
Again, thank you for the time, and we're happy
Sure.
to continue to work with the township to find a solution to this and a transition period maybe.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hall, can you just say your name and address, please?
Yeah, I do apologize. I left out the most basic part. My name is Nihal Raval, and I live here in Lower Macungie at 2045 Pembroke Drive, just off of Sauerkraut.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, thank you. At this time, I'm going to turn over control of the meeting to Vice President Ward. I do have a standing appointment I have to get to. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening. See you Monday.
Okay, so we'll move
Happy
back.
Thanksgiving. I'll see you Monday. That's
Fine.
jumping the gun.
Okay, we'll move to 6.2, consideration authorization to advertise an ordinance adopting the budget and setting the tax rates for 2025.
Thank you, gentlemen. Before you, this evening is the proposed township budget, including the necessary step to advertise this budget, as well as have it be out here and available to the public. We've already posted it to our website. It's necessary that we just review the budgets and their the budget funds as well as their amounts. The general fund, $14,026,825 revenue and expenditure. The solid waste fund, $5,564,800 revenue and expenditures. The sewer fund, $5,442,600 revenue and expenditure. The debt service fund, $2,121,400 revenue expenditure. The capital projects fund, $3,256,700, the revenue and expenditures. The open space fund, $11,610,000 revenue and expenditure. The open space maintenance fund, $368,000 revenue and expenditures. The state liquid fuels fund, $1,090,000 revenue and expenditures. I would note to the residents and those watching from home, we will not be increasing property taxes. Property tax will remain at 0.5 mils plus the additional voter approved 0.25 mil library tax that supports the library. The township also will be maintaining its current sewer rate into 2025. And as those are aware, in the last part of the quarterly billings, the refuse bill with the new contract was increased in 2024, but will be held in 2025. So no tax increase. Like to thank the staff as well as the board and the public for all your feedback. And I'm hopeful that this budget is a good reflection towards the community of things we want to accomplish with the various projects and updates to our facilities. So unless there's any questions, this is the first step of the process. Like I said, it will be in view here and available at the township building. And then we would ask the board to consider the adoption of this budget at our second December meeting on the 19th.
Move to authorize the advertisement of ordinance adopting the budget and setting the tax rates for 2025.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Good. 6.3, Resolution 2024-50, authorizing a local share assessment grant application for the East Texas Park Playground Project.
As we've talked about in our capital budget discussions and long-term and long-range planning, we have looked at and continue to look at parks and various parks in the township for replacement and upgrade. You may be familiar, the 2025 project is the park at, or playground structure at Quarry Road Park. In our future planning for 2026, our next focus is the review of East Texas Park and Playground. What you have before you this evening, the township is looking to apply for a grant, the local share grant. That is the proceeds from gambling revenue share throughout the state. There is a potential, application that the township can make for funding. This is the necessary authorization allowing the township manager and staff to execute that grant. Of course, it's at $1 million. We've had engineering look and put together some numbers that they've certified for that project costs. The township is, of course, not bound into that money or that project if we don't receive all of the money, and we are able to scale the project back. So the application's due at the end of this month, and this is just part of the process to see if we would be able to get that grant funding. So Renee has, as it's shown in front of you gentlemen in the public, the connectivity pathway components, the upgraded ADA compliant restroom facility, and that area around the playground. So
Move to
There's a-
approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any public comment? Any additional commissioner comment? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Good. The public comment. Communications, Mr. Vital.
Thank you. We have several this evening. William Royer, statement of interest for the zoning hearing board. Miles Zakos, statement of interest for the Environmental Advisory Council. Philip DePoe, statement of interest for the Environmental Advisory Council. And Chris Saki, a notice of not seeking reappointment to the Environmental Advisory Council. Chris has been a longtime member as well as the chairperson of that board. So that's his notification that he's not seeking reappointment.
Okay, thank you. There are no appointments this evening. Approval of November 7th minutes.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? Commissioner comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approval of the transfers bill list payroll, Mr. Vital.
Thank you. We have the following for your consideration. The general fund, $279,524.53. The solid waste fund, $34,270.44. The sewer fund, $22,065.91. The capital projects fund, $10,020.50. The open space fund, $2,024.50. The liquid fuels fund, $15,153.32. The payroll, $152,530.41. The developer escrow, $100,970.45. For a total of all funds, $616,560.06.
Move to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any public comment? Additional commissioner comment? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, departmental matters. Engineering, Mr. McAdam.
Nothing to report tonight, Mr. President. I had submitted the engineer's monthly report. It's in your packet. Beyond that, I don't have anything to add. I will have some items to go over at the workshop.
Very good, thank you.
Keep you in suspense.
Yeah, planning. Nothing going on tonight. You? Solicitor, Mr. Bruman.
Nothing this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Manager, back to you.
3 items, just for the public, informational side. One, just a reminder that leaf collection ends next week. So that is our last period for that pickup. We understand that residents always look for that extension. And just a reminder that it is done. We can actually change equipment over and be ready for hopefully not snow removal, but snow removal in our operation. The other item, just a reminder, the workshop in item 14.1 is Monday evening. We have a substantial workshop agenda with numerous items to review with the board. and the public. And then just if the board's available, I'm requesting an executive session after this meeting to discuss personnel as well as potential litigation.
Any any old business, excuse me? Any new business? Okay, the next Board of Commissioners meeting, as Bruce mentioned, the next workshop will be this coming Monday, the 25th at 6 PM, and the next regular board meeting will be December 5th at 6 PM. We will be holding an exec session. It is 7:20. We are adjourned.